Hello everybody and welcome to another video. My name is Tom from 6 Foot Networks and welcome to the first video shot at the new 6 Foot Networks headquarters location. So what I wanted to do is a real quick kind of a how-to tutorial video on how to get VMware ESXi going on a pretty old machine. Now some of you are going to look at this machine and be like, that's not old. Well, with most respect, it's not, but this here is a 2013 Apple Mac Pro. This has the Intel Xeon ES26, I guess 97 V2 in it. So it's also got 32 gigs of RAM and a ½ terabyte SSD. This computer was purchased 6 years ago or so, maybe a little more. And it used to be used as a streaming engine for Wirecast, and we've replaced it with other encoders, and this machine has been pretty much sitting on the shelf for the last, I don't know, 2 to 3 years. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a ESXi server out of it, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I'm not going to go into the whole pre-setup and pre-config, but what I am going to do is I'm literally going to take you step by step on how I do this. Okay, so welcome to the new office and thanks for sticking around for the ride. Here we go. So we're going to take this machine and put it on my desk here, and I promise at some point I'll have a video out that kind of goes into this office space and the history of it and how we got in here. Suffice it to say, there's still a lot of stuff that is at the old office, which many of you know was inside my house for the longest time, especially through the pandemic. But it was time to get a larger space, and you can tell that the audio is echoey because there's nothing on the walls. The ceiling is pretty tall, about 14 feet or so, 12, 14 feet, and it's all concrete built. So forgive the echo, but I'm wearing a microphone, so hopefully that'll cut it down a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this little flash drive that I have here. This is a 32 gig Kingston Traveler that came out of a plastic enclosure that shattered from heavy use. And what I did was I downloaded from VMware.com the ESXi installer for this. This is a trial, so this will work for 60 days. I intend on getting it licensed at some point once it meets all of my, it meets all my requirements, not recommendations. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have the Mac here. We got our display tower here. I'm going to set you down right around, I don't know, maybe right here. How does this look for you? And you're going to be paying attention to this display up here because these two are running off of this Mac Pro that's right behind the display here. So you can see that I fully believe in these, even though they were thermally doomed to fail from the beginning. So real quick, just before we get going, I know I said I wasn't going to get into the technicalities of this, but I made this flash drive using a Windows 10 virtual machine running a tool called Rufus. So you need to make the VMware download bootable. So it's a Linux file system and whatnot, but it doesn't have a bootable system as part of it. And that's what Rufus takes care of. It makes it bootable. So what I did was I used this, USB-C to USB-A, adapter, plugged it in, got this into the laptop, and connected it all up to the virtual machine. I used a Windows virtual machine because I don't actually have PCs anywhere. I'm a Mac guy, so there's a reason I keep Windows 10 around. This is one of those reasons. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I have the Mac Pro here. I'm just going to plug this in. Notice I have nothing else plugged into it because that's kind of how you're supposed to do things. I don't always do it this way, but it is what it is. I have an HDMI cable that'll go to this display up here. And then of course I have, oh, wait a minute. We're missing a keyboard. That keyboard's wireless. We need wired. Why, you may ask? Because we're not actually booting this thing into macOS. And pro tip, This is an Apple Bluetooth keyboard, one of the shorties. This is the full-size one. You can turn any one of these wireless keyboards into a wired keyboard by using an iPhone charging cable. Plug it in, now you have a wired keyboard. And yes, it does work. So we're going to plug this in here, wrap it around just so we have a little bit of cable management here, and then power. Now, this is just a temporary setup while I get everything unpacked and get my bench squared away. So this will boot, and the second you hear that sound is you're going to hit Option, and it'll boot to the boot menu. And give it a minute. There it goes. So this, like I said, this computer was previously used as a streaming engine. So whatever data is on it, we don't care. That's what this is, this macOS. I think that's even macOS extended. It's pre-APFS. So we're going to toast that. We're going to boot to the EFI boot, which is this flash drive. Actually, while this is going, I'm going to briefly talk about why I'm doing this. So a few years ago, I went through the process of moving everything out of my my second to last office into my home, just for, for reasons that are really irrelevant to this conversation. But when I moved this office into my house, my electrical usage went through the roof, and to make a long story short, I had to decommission a lot of my systems, turn off a lot of my servers. I had two of these ESXi boxes running on PC hardware that I built from a retail store that has since gone out of business. But they worked great, but they generated a lot of heat and they burned a lot of power because the power supplies were upwards of 1,000 watts. And long story short, I had to decommission all that. So a lot of my things became smaller, cheaper. I used Raspberry Pis for a while to run DNS and DHCP and stuff like that. And then I consolidated even more because I felt the difficulty of managing it was, a little bit extreme for me. And now that I'm in this space, I want to try to rebuild some of my lab gear from scratch, essentially, and a little bit modernized. I have down there on the floor, the best place to put a computer. It's there for temporary reasons. That Mac Mini is currently running the LDAP, DNS, and a few other services that I needed here, but I didn't have the hardware to run because a lot of the stuff was decommissioned during the move into this office space. So that system is currently running 2 services, and it's, it's not really, scaled for that. That came as part of a triplet set. So it was this Mini and then those 2 Mac Minis there. They were part of my Wirecast rendezvous setup that I used to bring in calls into Wirecast. And I'd like my 3 systems back, so I need to move all of the functions and services that are on that server to a virtualized macOS server that's going to be running in a small virtual machine on this computer. Now, while that's happening, I am going to go through the process of licensing this with VMware and getting it going and actually building a rack. So you can see over here, there's boxes over here. Those are just temporary boxes from the move. That shelf behind there also has a lot of my network gear towards the bottom. This whole room was kind of set up in a hurry, and I did it myself without much help. I also got standing desks, as you can see, and these are the extra tall height because I'm 6.5 feet tall and I have relatively long legs but pretty short arms per se. So I needed a higher desk than traditional to be able to go up. This one I think will go up to 140 centimeters. And I'm currently at about 120. And then this one is kind of my laptop stand, but it has the ability to go up and down too. And this here is my old workbench. So I want to, you know, build out a lab and properly start testing things and learning things, because after all, if you're not learning one new thing every day, then what are you doing? Anyway, let's get back to this. So we can see here, and that is extremely blown out, but maybe this will work a little bit better if I bring it closer. How's that? So we're going to go through this process, and we're going to hit enter here. We're going to accept the license agreement, and then we're going to go through the scanning process. So we're going to use the internal ATA Apple SSD, and you can see there that it's 465 gigs. I'm wondering if that's still claiming the macOS install. I want to see if we can format that. Let's see what happens. You have selected a list that contains one partition with existing data. If you continue to select, this will be overwritten. Yes, please. Okay, so keyboard layout. We're in the US. This is where the fun part comes. Root password. Sorry for the wobbly camera. Typing one-handed. Passwords do not match. Thank you very much. I know what I'm going to do for this. I'm going to sit you guys back down. Passwords match. There we go. So what we have here is enter to proceed. So what do we got? Errors found during the CPU, where the CPU and its host may not be supported in future ESXi release. Please plan accordingly. That's fine. Okay, the installer is configured to install ESXi 7.0.2 on that. The disk will be repartitioned. We hit F11 to proceed. There we go. So, in a nutshell, we took a fairly legacy machine that's still supported by Apple. I mean, I'm using one right here in my daily, you know, administration of networks. So they clearly work, but this one was an extra one that I bought as a spare for a need that I no longer have, that have since been replaced. So that one, like I said, was essentially collecting dust. So I came across it in my boxes earlier today, and I said, you know what? We're going to build a lab environment out of this, and sure enough, here we are. So I'm going to set you guys back down here. So we'll let this get to the end. I'll bring you guys back over here when that is done. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So the only thing that's left to do is, once this thing boots, it'll give us an IP address. So it should pull a DHCP address for the first time, and then we'll be able to use a browser to administer ESXi. What's great about this is that all of the administration, all of the configuring and installing of virtual machines and everything is done in a browser. And you don't have to really log into this anymore. So once this is done, you unhook the keyboard, you unhook the display, and you literally just have a power cable going to your server that has all of your virtual machines running on it, which is great. So essentially what we have here is, so you get that, and it would super help if I would have plugged in some network cables here. So let me go do that real fast. I'll keep you guys here. We'll point you that way, and then I'm going to see about where I can find a network cable. How do you guys feel about green? I got a green one. I'm going to plug her in, and then I'm going to run this under this desk to my switch here, which hopefully will just light up without incident. Okay. All right, so I plugged that in. And honestly, if DHCP doesn't work, you can just use the private address that comes up. There's one there. You just have to make sure you're on the same network. So I'm waiting for let's see if we can actually just set a static IP. So there's F2. We can log in as root. Let me put this flash drive over here so I don't lose it. So we're going to log in as root. Okay. Okay. It helps when you get the right password down. So these are the settings. You can see that this is all fairly skinny in terms of what's here. So we can restart management network, test network. So the management network is what we use to configure it, and right now it's got that address. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a network adapter, and you can see that, oh, looky here. It has the opposite interface is active, so let's see if that'll work. Okay, so escape, 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 and let's see if this will get an IP address. Maybe. That was kind of weird. But yes, it did. It finally pulled a DHCP address off the network. So what we're going to do now, we're actually just going to leave that just like that. So you can see that if you have this on DHCP, perfectly fine. At some point I'll go in and I'll replace the management network IP address with something that's in the actual range of the subnet that that server is going to sit on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit you guys down right here. Okay. And we're going to head over to the laptop here. I'm going to show you how to get into this machine via browser. Okay. So here we go. Let's see what the story of this is. 104. Yeah, did I definitely screwed it up, right? Okay, so we're gonna bypass the security dialog because we know that that's a legit system. And you can see here's the login window of VMware. So you can see this is a pretty simple, means to a functioning system. It helps when you type the right password down. I'm wondering if I had the caps lock button down over there when I type my password. Yes, sure enough. We'll save this for now. We'll deal with that later. But here's the interface of it, and you can see that it tells you the host name, what version you're running, state, uptime. So it looks like this host is potentially vulnerable to issues described here. And we're running in eval mode. So here's our CPU, our memory, our storage. Looks good, I think. We have one storage pool, one network pool, and 0 virtual machines. That's it, folks. Pretty quick, pretty easy. I mean, we did this, what, in under 20, 25 minutes? And the server can now be used as a test or in production. I might actually use this one in production. So I'm going to set this up properly off camera. And I think that pretty much covers it. I really, really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. If you're still around, thank you for sticking with me. For sure, I greatly appreciate it. But if you have any questions with regards to this build or anything that we've done, or if you need help with anything computer specific or network specific, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is down below. And I guess until next time, thanks for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help our channel, and we'll try to be more regular when it comes to uploading content. Thanks a lot.